Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I'm sorry," when you didn't really do anything wrong? Maybe your children asked something of you that you couldn't give. Or maybe you expressed your needs and felt guilty for it afterward. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many people over 60, especially parents and grandparents, have been taught to apologize simply for existing outside of someone else's expectations. But here's the truth. No one tells you loudly enough. You don't have to be sorry for living your life. You don't have to feel guilty for growing older, setting boundaries, or choosing peace. And certainly not for being human. You see, much of our emotional life is shaped by hidden forces, like guilt, obligation, and unconscious patterns we picked up from childhood or early parenthood. Often we carry these invisible weights, not realizing they're still running the show. Maybe you spent decades putting others first, trying to be the good parent, the reliable elder, the one who never rocks the boat. And now, when you finally want to breathe, to say no, or to live life on your own terms, you feel conflicted. Let me say this clearly. There are some things you never have to apologize for, even if your children or loved ones try to make you feel like you should. Not because they're bad people, but because the roles you've played for so long have shaped their expectations too. This isn't about blaming them. This is about freeing you. Let's start with one of the biggest things many seniors apologize for, often without realizing it: needing rest. You've earned your rest. That's simple. After decades of work, raising families, building careers, managing homes, supporting others, you deserve to slow down without guilt. Yet many older adults feel they must keep proving their usefulness. Maybe your adult children expect you to babysit all the time, or drive them to appointments, or drop everything when they call. And when you say, "I'm tired," or "I'd rather stay in today," there's that voice inside, "Am I being selfish?" But you're not a machine. You're not obligated to exhaust yourself for the sake of keeping the peace. Rest isn't laziness, it's wisdom. It's your body saying, "Thank you for all you've done. Now let me take care of you." Saying no to something because you're honoring your limits is not something to feel sorry for. It's an act of self-respect. Many psychologists have noted that much of human behavior is a push and pull between our true desires and the pressure to conform. Many seniors still feel that pressure, to be agreeable, helpful, never a burden. But the truth is, you're not here to meet everyone's expectations at the expense of your soul. Another thing you should never apologize for is spending your money how you choose. You've worked for what you have. Maybe you scrimped and saved. Maybe you went without so your kids could have more. And now that you finally want to enjoy your money, perhaps travel, upgrade your home, treat yourself to something nice, you feel hesitant. Maybe someone makes a comment like, "Are you sure you want to waste money on that?" Or, "You should save that for us." But here's the thing. Your money is not a reward for others' approval. It's a tool for your well-being, your joy, and your dignity. If you want to take a trip to the ocean, buy that new chair for your reading nook, or spend a little extra on a meal that delights you, do it. No apology needed. Sometimes, children, intentionally or not, treat their parents' resources like a future inheritance. And that creates an unspoken pressure. It can feel like your financial choices are being audited by people who forget that you earned every penny. But your money isn't a promise to them. It's a freedom for you. And here's something worth appreciating. When you make choices that align with your true self, not just your programmed role as provider or parent, you begin to live with authenticity. You reclaim your agency. You stop operating from guilt and start living from truth. Now let's talk about space. Your space. Your home. Many people over 60 feel like their homes are no longer fully theirs. Children come over and rearrange things, criticize the way you organize, or drop in unannounced. Sometimes they leave their children with you for hours, without asking how you feel about it. And when you speak up, they say, "You're being difficult," or "You used to love this." But here's what they may not realize. Your space is your sanctuary now. You've raised your family. You've filled your house with memories. And you have every right to say, "This is how I want to live now." Maybe that means fewer visits. Maybe it means changing how holidays are done. Maybe it means you set boundaries around how much noise or chaos you allow into your space. This isn't about being rigid. It's about being respected. You don't have to apologize for creating a peaceful, nourishing environment for yourself. That doesn't make you unfriendly. It makes you wise. Your home is an extension of your spirit, and your spirit deserves to be honored. Some of the guilt we carry around home life is rooted in our earlier roles. Maybe you were the one who hosted every Christmas dinner or cleaned up after every family event. But now you feel that's too much, and still, that old guilt tries to creep in. What if they think I don't care? What if they stop coming around? But love isn't measured by sacrifice alone. Love is measured by mutual respect. And if your peace is only preserved through overextending yourself, that's not love. It's performance. It's been widely observed that the mind protects itself through defense mechanisms, denial, repression, guilt. But the good news is, once you become conscious of these patterns, you can choose differently. You can choose to rest without shame, to spend without guilt, to live in your own home with dignity. That's the beginning of reclaiming your life, not from your children, but from the roles that no longer serve you. Let's keep going. There's even more you should never feel pressured to apologize for, even if someone else, especially someone close to you, tries to convince you otherwise. And here's another one, something many people over 60 struggle with but rarely talk about: not answering the phone or responding to messages right away. It might sound simple, even silly, but how many times have you heard, "I called you 3 times, why didn't you pick up?" Or, "I texted yesterday and you didn't write back." Is something wrong? Sometimes we internalize this pressure so deeply that we start feeling anxious every time the phone rings. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone instant access to your time, your thoughts, or your attention. You are allowed to move at your own pace, to rest when you need to put the phone away and enjoy a moment of silence. Just because technology makes people instantly reachable doesn't mean you have to live your life on call like a 24-hour hotline. And if someone's love or respect for you depends on how fast you respond, that's not love. It's control dressed up as concern. There's a saying that goes, "Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways." What does that mean here? It means that if you're always putting yourself on the back burner to meet other people's emotional demands without honoring your own needs, it'll show up somewhere else. In resentment, in stress, in burnout. The more you try to keep up with others' pace, the more you lose touch with your own rhythm. And after 60, your rhythm matters more than ever. There's nothing wrong with telling someone, "I needed a quiet day," or "I respond when I feel rested." That's not disrespect. That's emotional maturity. And if your adult children don't understand that, maybe it's time they start seeing you not as an extension of themselves, but as a whole person with your own life. Let's move into something even deeper: your beliefs and values. One of the things many elders are quietly pressured to apologize for is how they think. Maybe you've shared your views on parenting, money, faith, politics, or simply how things used to be. And you've been met with eye rolls, sharp comments, or silence. It can be painful when your own children dismiss your life experience as old-fashioned. But here's the beauty of growing older. You have seen the world change in ways younger generations cannot imagine. You've seen wars begin and end, economies rise and fall, people evolve and repeat the same old patterns. Your wisdom is not outdated, it's layered. It's been tested by time. And while you may no longer be shaping the world with your hands, you shape it through your presence, your stories, your memory. It's often the case that people struggle to integrate their past with their present, that unresolved conflicts between who we were and who we think we're supposed to be create inner tension. That's why so many older adults feel lost when their values no longer feel acceptable. But here's the thing. You are not required to become someone new just to stay included. You don't need to erase your values to avoid uncomfortable conversations. Your experiences are not a liability. They're a legacy. It's okay to say, "This is what I believe," and leave it there. Not every discussion has to end with agreement. Sometimes standing firm is more powerful than being understood. And now, let's talk about one of the most emotionally charged subjects of all: your boundaries around giving help. Whether it's emotional labor, financial support, or simply being the go-to problem solver, many seniors feel they can't say no because they fear being seen as uncaring, or worse, irrelevant. But when you constantly give from an empty cup, it's not generosity. It's self-abandonment. You've already given decades of help. You've already carried others through their storms. And now, it's not just okay, it's necessary to protect your energy. To say, "I can't do that anymore," or "I want to support you in a different way." You are not a retirement plan. You are not an emotional landfill. You are not the unpaid therapist for every drama. Your love doesn't depend on self-sacrifice. And the people who truly value you will understand that. Sometimes, though, people don't understand right away, especially if they've become used to you always saying yes. Change can feel like rejection to them, but it's not rejection. It's redirection toward healthier patterns, toward mutual respect. Some psychologists suggest that when we shift our role in a family system, it disrupts the unspoken dynamics that once held everything together. That can be uncomfortable, but it can also be liberating. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop apologizing for taking care of yourself, you teach others, especially your children, that boundaries are a form of love, not distance. Just think about the kind of example that sets. If your children or grandchildren see you honor your peace, speak your truth, protect your space, and choose rest over guilt, that's a lesson they may not understand today, but will treasure tomorrow. Because deep down, everyone wants to grow into the kind of freedom you now have access to. So, no, you don't have to apologize for how often you answer the phone, or for how you think, how you believe, or how you protect your energy. You don't have to justify rest. You don't need permission to spend your money, to guard your time, to say, "Not today." Because you are no longer in the season of proving yourself. You are in the season of claiming yourself. You've earned this moment, every quiet morning, every unhurried afternoon, every time you choose peace over performance. And if someone tries to make you feel guilty for that, let them carry that guilt themselves. It was never yours to begin with. Let's take this deeper. Because there's one more area, one final, tender space, where too many people over 60 still feel pressured to say, "Sorry." But you don't have to. Not anymore. Too many people over 60 feel the need to shrink their happiness to make others more comfortable. Have you ever caught yourself smiling at something simple? A song you love, a memory, a peaceful walk, only for someone to say, "What's so funny?" Or worse, "You're acting silly." It can happen when you start a new hobby, wear a bold color, dance in the kitchen, or even fall in love again. People around you might laugh it off or suggest you're too old for that kind of thing. But here's the truth. Joy is ageless. Your capacity for delight did not retire when you turned 60. In fact, this chapter of life may be your best chance yet to enjoy who you really are, without the masks, the roles, the performance. There's a saying that goes, "Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. But here's what I'd add to that. The greatest freedom comes when you take responsibility for your own joy. Not your children's, not society's, yours. You do not have to apologize for what lights you up. You don't have to downplay your smile to protect someone else's frown. You don't have to tone yourself down just because the world expects elders to be quiet, invisible, or subdued. Joy is your birthright. You've earned every sparkle of it. Maybe you love painting, or gardening, or volunteering, or spending your mornings with a hot cup of tea and no obligations at all. Whatever brings you joy, do more of that. And if your adult children don't understand why you no longer want to chase after their chaos or be pulled into their stress, that's okay. You are allowed to live in a different emotional climate now. There's something sacred about choosing peace over noise, beauty over busyness, truth over approval. You've spent years pouring yourself into other people's stories. Now, you get to write your own. Don't apologize for laughing too loudly. Don't explain away your excitement. Don't dim your spark to fit someone else's mold. And when they ask, "Why are you doing that?" you can simply say, "Because it makes me happy." That's reason enough. Now, as we bring this conversation to a close, let's pause together for a moment. Let this message sink in, not just as information, but as permission. You are not selfish for choosing rest. You are not wasteful for spending on your joy. You are not cold for protecting your space. You are not wrong for moving at your own pace. You are not outdated for having your own beliefs. And you are absolutely not silly for being happy. You are enough, without apology. Some people might not like your new boundaries. That's okay. You didn't come this far just to keep everyone comfortable. You came this far to live with truth, dignity, and peace. You are not here to earn your place. You've already earned it. Now you're here to enjoy it. So go ahead. Take that walk at your own pace. Say no when your body asks for quiet. Say yes when your heart says it's time. Sing if you want to. Dance if you feel like it. Laugh, rest, be still, or soar. You don't have to explain yourself anymore. Not to your children. Not to the world. Not even to that little voice inside that still tries to whisper guilt into your ear. You are not here to apologize. You are here to live. And if someone doesn't understand that, they'll catch up someday. For now, take a deep breath. Let go of all the shoulds, oughts, and what will they think. This is your time. If this video touched something in you, if it reminded you of your worth, or gave you the courage to stop saying sorry, then share it with someone who needs that same reminder. And if you feel like it, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What have you stopped apologizing for? Or what would you like to start reclaiming in this chapter of life? Your story matters. Your voice is powerful. Your life still has room for joy, change, and freedom. Thank you for being here. Thank you for living bravely. And thank you for no longer apologizing for being you. Remember, the most beautiful thing you can do after 60 is stop asking permission to shine. Until next time, here's to living your best, boldest, most unapologetic life at any age.